Hi, I'm Shelby Williams with Plano City Council. Coming back at you with the first council meeting of July after the July break. We have two council meetings this week, the second one being this Wednesday, where we'll discuss the budget and the Community Investment Program, or CIP. Before the meeting started tonight, we had a group photo with the new council. We did do a fun photo, but I'm sorry to say, still no human pyramid, but I remain hopeful. Maybe next time. There were three big items that we discussed tonight. The first being in the preliminary open meeting, the Noise Ordinance. Now, there have been a number of complaints at Windrose Tower next to Legacy Hall about the music on Friday and Saturday nights. At ground level, it is compliant with our noise ordinance, but apparently at higher levels, because it's a pretty tall development, it gets louder because there's not as much obstructing the noise. And residents have been speaking at council meetings for a few months now, talking about the problem. Staff proposed an ordinance to allow music venues to apply for a permit, an annually renewed permit, to allow them during nighttime to have the noise levels permitted during the daytime. So they reduce at night. But we have a problem in that Windrose Towers was already developed. Legacy Hall has a right to conduct their business. Windrose Towers residents have a right to sleep in peace. And in order to resolve this immediate issue, there's got to be some kind of sound mitigation, sound dampening, sound proofing, either at the source or the receiving side at Windrose Towers, or both. So we did express that we wanted to come back with an ordinance for council consideration. This is during preliminary open meetings, so we couldn't actually vote on anything yet. But we would like an ordinance to come back to allow music venues to apply for a permit to exceed sound levels on weekends and certain holidays. However, any residents or basically a complaint history surrounding that music venue will be a barrier, or at least an obstacle, to gaining that permit. But something additional that I've asked to come back before council in the future is something requiring additional sound mitigating requirements during the construction either of a venue or a residential or quasi-residential, because this applies to hotels as well, developments that are going up next to a known entertainment venue or music venue. So I think and this isn't the first time it's happened. There are a couple of places throughout Plano where this has happened in the past, and I want to make sure that we're appropriately resolving these issues now and trying to head them off in the future. Second was zoning, but it was pretty uncontentious tonight. There were 3 zoning requests. One was, well, 4 technically. One was to allow restaurants where restaurants are already operating. There was an inconsistency in the way the zoning updates were made throughout the history of the city since the 70s, that staff realized that some places were currently out of compliance, so we rezoned so that they are in compliance. And also to permit a used vehicle dealership on the site of a now vacant new vehicle dealership. That required a specific use permit, or SUP. We also changed the Code of Ordinances of the city to allow for a new type of construction called government facility. This does not apply to quasi-governmental entities like DART and the North Texas Municipal Water District. The sort of zoning thing we did was we had a taking of a portion of the Hoblitzell Trail for water easements, or water line easements. So the hearing was required tonight under Texas state law to take parkland for city use, and it is for the water line easements. All of those passed, by the way. The third big item we had regarded eminent domain. This is specifically for DART's use of eminent domain for acquiring land in Plano, commercial land currently, for the Silver Line. And this was tabled a couple of months ago because DART had, as is their practice, preemptively come to us requesting eminent domain authority before they began negotiating with the property owners, just in case the property owners didn't agree to the terms, or they couldn't come to an agreement. And we felt at the time, enough of us, I should say, felt that if you already have eminent domain in your pocket, that's not a negotiation, and that DART should be forced to negotiate first before coming to us. So they did that and came back tonight with request for eminent domain on 2 properties, one of which they said the negotiations had reached a complete impasse. DART offered one figure. The property owner said, give me double that. I won't take anything less. Not precise quote, but I made sure that was the gist. And the city did reach out to both property owners today, notifying them of the hearing this evening. And one property owner who had requested twice what was offered did not respond, did not come tonight. And what was requested was a strip along the back of the property for the rail line to run. And so council did grant the eminent domain authority for that piece of the property. Now, it's important to note that under Texas law, DART has the ability to exercise eminent domain itself, but it has to get permission, essentially, from the governmental jurisdiction in which it's seeking eminent domain, in this case, the city of Plano. Then we came to the second property, which was pulled up in a separate agenda item. And in that one, DART is actually proposing to demolish a portion of a building to run the rail line through it. Now, an attorney for that property owner did come tonight. The property owner was unable to attend, having been notified this morning, and said that while DART has made an offer, they have not yet had time to evaluate whether the offer is feasible, given the fact that they've got to knock down a portion of the building, rebuild the building in a different manner, away from the rail path, and a number of other factors. Long story short, we expressed that since negotiations were still ongoing there, we were unwilling to go ahead and grant eminent domain authority, and that has been tabled until the September 27th meeting. That's the second meeting in September. Hopefully they'll have had enough time to conclude negotiations, evaluate the options in this area, and come to an amicable resolution. There were a couple of other things that happened tonight. Just to run down the list, certificates of commendation were issued for graduates of the Texas Certified Public Manager Program. During comments of public interest, actually this will be of interest to many people, panhandling was significantly cited. And as many people who have contacted me have noticed, and I myself have noticed, this has been on the uptick in recent months. And it shouldn't come as any surprise that most homeless individuals suffer from drug addiction or mental health issues or both, but also many people who are panhandling are not homeless. Some people can, the more aggressive ones, it was said in a study that was done, can earn around $80,000 a year panhandling. On average, people earn about $20,000 a year panhandling. And one of the solutions that was offered to this that's not violative of First Amendment rights is simply citing anybody who steps foot in a roadway, or at least a significant thoroughfare. We as council are looking at options to limit this, and we want to provide a little information as well for the community, such as not giving money to panhandlers, and instead, for people in need, referring them to the appropriate resources and helping them get the appropriate resources, whether it's homeless shelters, food banks, joblessness resources, etc. We want to make sure that people get the right and responsible help, and that we don't invite the kind of problems that are plaguing some cities, notably Austin. As an item on a future agenda, on August 9th, it has been requested that we discuss the operations at the North Texas Municipal Water District Rowlett Creek Sewage Treatment Plant. And so there's been an ongoing zoning request by the water district to build a new facilities building on the site. this was a request to make sure that we are able to actually discuss the operations of the plant, separate from the zoning request for the facilities building. Let's see, this was the rezoning, SUP, government facility. We did have to table requests related to the Cullen Creek East and West PIDs due to financing from the federal government, which is delayed, possibly for a while. So that's been tabled for a future meeting. We did approve the 2021-22 action plan, which is a requirement to receive HUD funding. And a couple of other items we discussed in the preliminary open meeting. Council meeting dates for 2022. We have shifted the second meeting in September to accommodate Rosh Hashanah. So that council meeting will take place Tuesday evening. And we also had a discussion about the council code of conduct, council endorsements, and the recusals ordinance that we passed last year. So I think there was enough support to revise the code of conduct that council members should not make endorsements concerning city council. I've got to get clarification on what the final vote on that was. And the recusal mechanism that we placed, the recusal ordinance that we passed last year, said that if a council member received more than $1,000 from any one party interested in a vote before council where they stood to gain materially, like I'm applying for an economic development grant, or I'm applying for a development permit to develop a commercial business. If I have given more than 1,000 members to a council member and I am an interested party in that vote, then that council member to whom I've given more than $1,000 should recuse themselves. It looked like there was enough support among council, I'm sorry to say, to repeal that ordinance. That would be coming back before council in the future to formally repeal it, if so. And there was lastly a discussion about residential lighting, the restrictions that apply to commercial lighting and parking lots, businesses, etc. For some reason that didn't apply to residential lighting. So there is going to be an update. Staff is going to come back to us with an update to the ordinance to include residential lighting in that, just to make sure that there isn't any nuisance lighting. I'm Shelby Williams, and that's the recap for tonight. I'll have a whole other recap for you in 2 nights' time on July 28th when we review the budget and the preliminary budget, I should say. It's not going to pass until September, and the community investment program. Thank you. God bless.